Well, good morning and welcome back to Cityline. With me is someone who I have known in many iterations. I've known this person to talk about equity and how it works in our workplace. I've known this person to be the other half of their singing, playing guitar duo with their fabulous partner. And now I get to know this person as somebody who has lots to say about bird notes. So please join me in welcoming Nick Bayard. You are the Executive Director of BirdNote. Welcome to Cityline.
Thank you. I pinch myself every time I hear those words, Executive Director of BirdNote.
I think it's incredible. And you, as I said, you have reinvented yourself in so many different ways. And here you sit, ready to tell us about BirdNote. So what is the history of BirdNote?
Yeah, BirdNote was founded in 2005 under the auspices of what's now Birds Connect Seattle. And it was this vision that Chris Peterson had, the founder, that there should be a daily radio show about birds, because birds are something that bring joy and delight into people's lives. And what better place to have that than kind of mixed in with what can sometimes be kind of heavy news on public radio. And it was such a strong, powerful vision that now it's grown to become a national program, broadcast on about 300 public radio stations across the U.S. And it's become one of the most popular podcasts in the world about anything nature related.
Wow. So right here in Tacoma, we can listen to BirdNote on a regular basis.
Every morning on KNKX 88.5 at 6:31 and 8:59 exactly for 1 minute and 45 seconds. So it is short enough that anybody can listen to the whole thing without changing the channel, even if you don't like birds that much. And it's enough to get you immersed in the world of nature. It's kind of a magical amount of time. It also happens to be kind of the standard break time on the NPR time clock. So it works well on a number of levels.
What is it about birds, Nick? I was talking with the producers in the booth and about I hit this certain age and suddenly I like birds. I'm obsessed with birds. I'm looking at birds. And then I realize I'm turning into my grandmother. Do you find that happens with people when it comes to birds and BirdNote?
I think people find birds in different ways at different times, and they mean different things depending on the person and the context. The beautiful thing about birds is that anyone, no matter where you are, you can look around and find them. I think people are really drawn to the freedom of
Yes.
flight. I've always been fascinated by their adaptations, just how remarkable they are. We don't have dinosaurs with us anymore, but we do have these amazing creatures that I think are just as compelling and worthy of our attention and admiration and protection.
Absolutely, yeah. Birds for me, I didn't start really tuning into birds until after the pandemic. And now you're right, it's a symbol of freedom. So when you think about the impact that BirdNote has on people and on birds and the environment, where do your hopes go with that?
Well, we're lucky that about 5 or 6 million people can hear our show on public radio and another million on podcast, and hopefully that'll grow. And that those folks take a moment every day and just take some time to be mindful and pay attention and get excited about something they didn't see coming.
Yes.
And that happening on such a big scale is a really magical thing. Imagine somebody's mindset just shifting slightly, but millions of people happening for millions of people across the country and around the world. I've always thought there's been kind of a peace building aspect of that, kind of calming people's nerves a little bit every day. And then just the mere fact of paying attention to birds, our theory of change is that if you love something, you're going to feel moved to protect it. And so our hope has always been that people will come to love birds, but then also take action to protect them and to protect the natural world. And our big initiative over the next 3 years is going to be to start to test that and be more intentional about encouraging people to take action. Because as you know, we're in a climate crisis, and
Yep.
we also are, we've been experiencing a mass extinction event, for the last 200 years. And that's hit birds particularly hard because of how vulnerable a lot of them are. And we think that on the scale that BirdNote's able to connect with people, we have an opportunity to, even if everybody that listens to BirdNote does one small thing, have an impact.
Exactly. Because there has got to be a way that BirdNote has touched on individuals or groups of people that historically have been excluded from mainstream environmentalism. And I can imagine that once they start to view the world through a bird's eyes, recycling happens, birdseed, planting flowers, looking at trees. It becomes a whole environmental snow globe.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. We've been really dedicated, particularly over the last few years, to making sure that the representation of who is seen as a birder, who is seen as a scientist, who is seen as an authority in public media is more reflective of the reality,
Yeah.
which is the fact that it's not people that look like me exclusively, which is what public media and mainstream environmentalism have kind of led a lot of people to believe. So one opportunity we've taken advantage of is to just have much more diversity of voices and backgrounds and identities on the radio airwaves. And it's been really moving to me to see how many amazing stories and scripts come from different parts of the country. We had an open pitch process last year where we opened it up and said, if you want to submit a story to us or pitch in a BirdNote episode, please do that. We connected with some amazing people who now we're going to go deeper with and make regular contributors. We're really proud of the work that the organizers of Black Birders Week did with us over the last couple of years. Every day of that week, which happens at the end of May, an organizer of that week has developed a show, narrated it, produced it with our team. So you can go on our website and listen to those episodes.
Wow.
They're some of the best episodes I think we've ever done. So it's just that representation is really important. And then also I think the bridging power of a love of birds, something that transcends communities, politics as much as it can these days. And we need to all come together for
Absolutely.
conservation. And this is one way I think we can do it.
Well, one of the things that I find when I travel, and I wasn't really aware that I did this until I stopped traveling during COVID and then started picking up small trips as we're coming out of this. But whenever I'm in a new place, first thing in the morning, I listen to the birds because the birds are so different according to where you go. I mean, we have the birds in my backyard that I always listen for in the spring, summer, and fall. But other organizations also have that as well, and other demographics have it as well. When you think about what does a person need to be a bird watcher or simply connect with the lives of those birds, what comes to mind?
Eyes and ears.
Yep.
Pretty much it, and sometimes not even that. We work closely with an organization called Birdability, which is dedicated to making birding, bird watching more inclusive and accessible. So we have some shows that talk people through how blind people go and experience birds, how deaf people can go bird watching. There's a lot of new technology out there to help people experience birds if they are missing or have sensory issues, mobility issues, that kind of thing. So Birdability is something I'd recommend.
And we have a video we're going to show here. It's a video about a woodcock. And let's look at this here just real quick. Oh, look at this. Okay, this is my kind of bird. Look at that. So is this how this bird walks the whole time, or is this perhaps a mating dance?
Well, it's one of the mysteries of the American woodcock is why it does this dance. And there's a show about this, and it talks about this idea that maybe it's doing this, shifting its weight to kind of shift the ground underneath it and get the earthworms to move. So it can more easily stick that beak down there and grab the worms. Another theory is that it could be a warning to predators. This bird spends a lot of time in grasslands and early growth forests. Like this, you see it's great camouflage.
Oh, yeah.
So another theory is that if a predator is coming and maybe it's got its young nearby, it might be doing this to say, hey, I'm here and I can get out of here anytime I want. So just be aware. So it's actually unclear, but it is one of the
That's incredible.
my
That's
favorite
incredible.
kind of bird movements out there.
Yes, my daughter has 2 cats and a big screen TV, and she will put the bird nature videos on that show like a woodcock doing something like that, and her cats love it. They sit there for hours and just think it is the best thing. So how can people support the work of BirdNote in this last minute?
Well, they can subscribe to our podcasts. They can subscribe to our newsletter. I know people get a lot of emails these days, but our emails are just great. So sign up for the newsletter and donate. We're an independent nonprofit, so every dollar that people spend helps us inspire more people to care about birds and take steps to protect them.
Exactly.
And I also just want to take a minute and thank everybody who does donate and support, and our amazing staff and board of directors, and we have a science advisory council that volunteers their time, and all the radio stations out there. A special shout out to KNKX as our flagship station. Can I mention that we're going to be part of their big Seattle studio launch on the 26th of this month. We're going to have some live raptors and a panel discussion, and Michelle Martin from NPR is going to be there. The mayor of Seattle is going to be there. It'll be a lot of fun.
We'll stay tuned. Nick, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
And spreading peace and joy through those birds. It's a good feeling. I want to say again, thank you so much.
It's a team effort. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. When we come back, LeMay Museum will be in the house. You don't want to miss that. We'll be right back.